Hi and welcome back to the next lesson. In this lesson we are going to add a symbol here to draw the dashboard reader's attention to an area, in particular this text here, if the value or the current value of the number of defects is above the target we've set for each of these different risk groups, the high, the medium and the low risk groups, and also of course the overall target, which is going to be the sum of each one of these targets here. So to do that, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go and create a new measure, and this measure is going to be the symbol that we're going to display. So when we're creating a measure, we want this one to be called, let's call it circle symbol, and we're going to paste in a symbol here that is going to be basically a text of a symbol, which is a circle. So I'll just paste that in here. Okay, so I've added it in, and all you do for this is you find or use this website here, and there's plenty of these websites that have got these types of symbols, and you basically this is the website, and you basically just click on one of these. And I've clicked on this one here, or you could click on any one of these really, but a circle is probably the best one for this particular application. And as soon as you click on it, it's going to copy it. Okay, and then you go back to your measure, and as long as you've got it in these inverted commas here, you paste it in. There's a bit of a smaller circle, that one that I've got there, and that would be basically what the measure is just a circle. Okay, so that's the first stage in this process, and once that's loaded, we're going to go and add a card. It is here, and we're going to add this circle into the card. It's just going to display the circle symbol. So we'll tidy up the card. We'll strip out the category there, turn that off. And we'll go to the label, and we're going to make that a little bit smaller, make it 12 perhaps. We might even make it slightly bigger. And we will change the size of this card as well. Okay, and that's going to sit beside here. And what we're going to do next is we're going to add in some conditional formatting, and it's going to be black normally it will be black, but we're going to add in some conditional formatting here that's going to change it to be red. Probably not that colour of red, but a colour of red under certain conditions. Okay, so and those conditions are if the target has been breached, or if the current value is above the target. So to do that, let me just go into this conditional formatting option here, and we're going to allocate a field. And that field is going to be what determines the actual colour that then gets fed into here. We've done it earlier in the course, and we're just going to go and do that again. So let's go and create another measure that calculates the colour that we're going to use to conditionally format this symbol. Okay, so we've got a new measure here, and let's talk through this measure. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to define the targets. Okay, so these targets could actually be in a table, or they could be in a table that you've actually entered into Power BI. It could be a table that you've got sitting in on Excel or in a database somewhere, but I've just added these in manually for just now. And I do have a course on conditional formatting that goes into this in a lot more detail, the whole subject of conditional formatting, how you can actually manage your KPIs in a central location. So have a look out for that. However, in the meantime, we've just put these in manually at the moment. So the high risk target is 0, medium is 250, and the lowest target is 450. The total target is basically each one of these added together. Okay, so this kind of means that you can't get a total target that's different from the sum of each of these components here. Next, we're going to capture the risk mitigation, risk group post mitigation. So this selected value is going to go and harvest that value, and that's going to be the filter that we're going to apply to this particular card that's displaying the symbol. And then we're going to carry out a comparison. First of all, the target to compare. So based on this, the risk group filter that's applied, we're going to know which target we're going to compare the current value against to understand if we should turn this red or leave it black. So the first thing we do is we find this target. If the value selected is high, then the risk target is going to be the high risk target we're going to compare. If the value selected is medium, then it's a medium risk target. If the value selected is low for the risk post-mitigation risk group, then we're going to compare that against the low target. So that's going to be the target to compare. Next, we actually carry out the comparison of the measure to compare. So we've got the target. Next, we need to find out which measure we're going to compare that target against. And again, we do a similar thing. We look at the value selected. If it's high, we're going to compare that against the work order count current week high risk. So the number of work orders that are in this high risk category. If it's medium, it'll be the medium risk. If it's low, it'll be the low risk. If it's none of these, then we know that we need to compare it against the total target. And that's actually what we've done here as well. This alternative result here. So if there's only a result on its own, it's the very end result, then that'll be the default. So that'll be where we compare it against the total target. Okay, so that is it. So really dynamic. Finally, we take the result. So the result is basically saying if the measure to compare is greater than the target to compare, then it's red. Okay, so if it's equal, we'll assume that it's black, and it's not going to apply any conditional formatting. So let's just add that in, and we'll minimize this, and we'll go into our conditional formatting here, and we will go and select field value, and I notice it's added under field groups. So under this risk group table here, but we can move that to measure. That's fine. I just want to see it working, and we can see it's turned out red. Now, just to make sure that it is actually working, that will actually be comparing it against the total target because there's no filter applied to that at the moment. So let's apply a filter, and the filter is going to be on risk group post mitigation. And let's add that into this visualization here. And we're going to set that at high. It'll still be red anyway because it's exceeding the target of 0. But what we're going to do is we're going to go in just to test it configures it properly. We're going to go into the actual measure itself, which is up here. Just going to move it into the work order data. And I am going to change the high risk target to be 3. Okay, so it's 2 is the current value, so its target is 3, so that should actually be black. Okay, so we can see it's turned, basically it's left it black. That's the default color, it's left it black. We can increase this a little bit later, we'll play with the font here, but we can see clearly that it's looking at this value here, it's comparing it to the target we've set, which is 3, and everything is looking like it's working. So the next thing we'll do is we will go back in and just change that back to being 0. And we'll simply just copy this another 3 times and change the filter. So I will go and do that while I pause the video. Okay, so that is that's me copied that to each one of these different charts, and we can see each one has got a different filter. So this has got the medium filter, and this one has got the low filter, and this one has got no filter applied because that's the total. This is going to be for the total. Now I've just also noticed here that the current value is looking like it's looking like it is taking the total, not the value for the high risk defects. So let's go and have a look at what's happening here. So we're going to go into this value here, high risk current week versus target. Here it is here. Let's check just a little bit of debugging here. Okay, I must have There must have been some testing that I did earlier, so we can get rid of that. We can add that back in. There we go. Okay, so they're gonna sort of tie up together. And then the next thing we need to do is we need to just copy this, and we're going to create a new measure for each one of these. Okay, we need to create a measure because you can't add a filter onto a button. So the button allows us to align the text. So if we go and look at a card, here's a card. Now the card, when you're looking at the data label, there's no option to align it to the top, to the bottom, to the left, to the right. It's just centered, and that's it. And that's fine if we're going to use this a number, which a card is really designed for, or the symbol. But if we want to display some text, that's why I've put this text as the conditional formatting option for the button text, because then you can actually you can add some padding, you can align it either top, bottom, or top, middle, or bottom, or center, left, right, etc. So that's why we're using that. However, the downside of that is you can't apply a filter to this button. You can apply a filter to the page, you can apply a filter to all pages, but you can't apply it to the visual, where you can in this example here. So most of these things are a compromise. However, that means that we need to create a different measure for the conditional formatting. One for high, one for medium, one for low, and one for the total. So that is what we're going to do in the next lesson. I'll talk to you then.